Titans, Bitcoin just had another massive breakout. Stay tuned to see what happened and what my price target is. Kevart, hit that intro. Let's kick it off with the Crypto Fear and Greed Index. Today we are at a level 72, which represents greed. So it seems that lately we are just bouncing back and forth between greed and the lower end of extreme greed as we continue to wait for Bitcoin's next move. Now let's move on to your daily reminder that the Bitcoin halving is in just 52 days. Also note that the halving date is currently estimated to be April 19th. Moving on to the Bitcoin liquidation heat map. So I'm not seeing a whole lot of liquidity above the current price action at this time. However, we are currently seeing a lot of liquidity below the price action in this dark yellow region at about 50.4K. This represents that we have a lot of long positions being built up by the bulls. Keep in mind that Bitcoin tends to follow the liquidity, so we could potentially see a quick flush out of the longs before Bitcoin makes its next big move. Let's now take a quick look at the Bitcoin ETF flow table. If you recall last week, we mentioned that the inflow appeared to peak at $631.3 million back on February 13th, and the flow has since tapered down. However, last Thursday and Friday, the net flows are beginning to rise again after seemingly bottoming out on February 21st, which was our first single day of negative flow. This could potentially be a sign that we had a temporary bottom and are now moving forward in the right direction once again. Finally, we need to talk about Ethereum for a minute. As you may or may not already know, we are expecting a decision to be made by the SEC for the first Ethereum Spot ETF by May 23rd. That's only 87 days from here, so please don't sleep on Ethereum because you know what happened to Bitcoin leading up to the approval of the Spot ETFs back in January. All right, you know what time it is, so let's hit the charts. All right, Titans, we're looking at the 4-hour time frame for Bitcoin. Now, if you recall from last Friday, we talked about how Bitcoin was range bound between 50.7K to about 52.4K, just going up and down, up and down, up and down, consolidating. And it wasn't until we hit late Friday and headed into the weekend that I noticed that the price action no longer was retesting the upper end of the range at 52.4K. Instead, we were just kind of hovering around the middle at most. Now, at this point, we're actually getting this massive candle going on today, which I'm going to explain in a minute on the next chart. All right, so looking at the 12-hour time frame for Bitcoin, we can see this bull flag pattern having developed. And when you add the Bollinger Bands indicator, I noticed that the bands are getting super tight here. And adding the Bollinger Bands width indicator below, you can see that we are in the squeeze zone. Now, we are currently getting a breakout of this bull flag pattern at this time. So the price breakout target here is going to be about $61,000. And this is nothing more than the length of the pole added to the bottom of the flag. Now, I'm not expecting us to necessarily hit $61,000 today, but it could happen over the next few days or weeks potentially. Now, let's zoom out to the weekly time frame for Bitcoin on a log scale. Now, if you recall last Friday, we were talking about this potential bearish divergence forming between the price action and the RSI. So we had higher highs on our candles and lower highs on our RSI. So the concern here was that we were going to see a price reversal in that it could go down from here. But with the recent surge of the price today from the bull flag pattern, I think we're actually going to negate this. Now, looking at the weekly time frame again, but this time from a linear perspective, if you recall last week, we were talking about this golden pocket zone here, which is your 0.618, 0.65 Fibonacci levels. And what's really bullish to me now is that we've now have had 2 consecutive closes on weekly candles in a row. So that to me is a really good sign that we should be moving forward in the upwards direction. And finally, we're going to look at the ETH Bitcoin pairing here. So last Friday, we were talking about the relative strength of Ethereum to Bitcoin and how we need to break this upper resistance line here in this descending channel pattern. So as you can see, last week, we actually had a weekly candle close above the resistance line, and now we're currently retesting this. So guys, this is really bullish for Ethereum moving forward. And this kind of makes sense because we're expecting the Ethereum Spot ETF to get approved by May 23rd, as you recall. So at some point, we could actually see Ethereum flip Bitcoin and have greater gains moving forward. Titans, we are your one-stop source for guiding you through this Bitcoin bull run. Please join us as we continue to provide the latest market and technical analysis that are going to give you that edge.